Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I was born in Bosnia in '88 and was 4 when my mother, and my sisters fled the north of the country. Our bus was stopped on the border to Croatia and armed men boarded. They demanded everyone's money and valuables. Not being pleased with the take, they demanded that everyone strip naked to make sure that no one was hiding anything. If they found anyone hiding valuables, they told us, even if it was just one person, the entire bus would be shot. One of these armed men paced back and forth on the bus, looking at each of us as his comrades rummaged through our clothes. He stopped by an older and rather saggy-looking lady and extended his rifle. He raised her left breast with it to check if she had been hiding anything under it. She hadn't. Satisfied, he moved on and passed me, sitting there completely naked except for my little white socks. They returned our clothes, smiled, and handed us our exit visas. When my family and I finally reached a shelter in Zagreb, we all collapsed from exhaustion. Before I went to sleep, however, I complained that my feet hurt. My mother took off my socks to massage my feet and out fell a little gold necklace.
This happened to my cousin. A guy at her high school who was a socially inept introvert began following her around between classes in second year. In her third year, she realized that he was in all of the same classes as her. Turns out that he found a copy of her preferred class schedule and copied it to a T. Not long after, she started receiving creepy love letters in her locker. She amassed a good 24 letters before she took it to the principal's office out of concern. The letters had become increasingly more creepy. The words "love" and "watching you" had been used. She had a decent idea of who it was, and the principal contacted his parents and took him for some counseling. The letters stopped. 2 months go by and my cousin and the rest of her immediate family are coming home from a family dinner. Her older sister goes straight up to her room to change. She opens the closet and curled up in a ball in the corner as the stalker, crying and shaking. No doubt my cousin flips the fuck out screaming bloody murder, and my uncle rushes up. They knew who the kid was, and although they were extremely mad, they didn't get physical or anything. They called the police, who came and took him away. They had a restraining order put on him and had him moved to another school. They didn't press charges because he was mentally unstable. The creepiest part about the whole situation is that the whole family had been hearing noises in the house for months. The older brother of the family, whose room was in the basement, had heard the faint sound of doors opening and closing several times. And my cousin, who he was stalking, had noticed some of her personal belongings had gone missing, primarily underwear. In fact, it was an inside joke between the sisters for some time that she had to buy so many new pairs of underwear all of the time. The creep admitted that he had been breaking into their house for months to go through my cousin's personal belongings.
I used to squat in an unoccupied house that was for sale in Washington, D.C. I knew the people who had recently moved out of there, and had a key to get in. The real estate agent put his own padlock on the front door, but didn't do anything for the back. I only slept and showered there and used the electricity because it hadn't been turned off yet. Free living while saving my shitty working class wages wasn't so bad. The house had a walk-in closet in the basement that I would sleep in with a sleeping bag. It was kind of uncomfortable setting up camp in a big empty room with hardwood floors, and the closet was carpeted and kind of womb-like. I crashed there for 4 months without incident. I knew the place back to front and had what I felt was a pretty foolproof routine. I wouldn't turn on any lights at night. I had a car that I parked down the street at the grocery store while I was in the house. I left no trace that I was staying there other than my rolled-up sleeping bag and dop kit which I hid in the ceiling. After a long evening at work, I got in at about 3 a.m., and immediately went into the closet to get some sleep. I don't know what time it was. It couldn't have been long after I dozed off, but I was jolted awake by a ringing telephone. There were no phones in the house, I was absolutely certain. At first it sounded like it was right next to me, but as I got up, it was actually kind of quiet. And it didn't stop. It just kept going. I went upstairs, with no lights on, mind you, into the master bedroom to try to figure out what the fuck was going on, and I saw a police patrol car pull up in front of the house. I started freaking out because the phone was still ringing and there were now cops coming up who could very easily throw me in jail for vagrancy if they saw me. They scanned the house with their flashlights. I assumed they were checking the windows and doors for break-ins while I hid in the bathroom which had no windows. I always locked the back door so I wasn't in danger of them coming in. Sometime while they were doing this, the ringing finally stopped, but I never found out where it was coming from. Scared as hell of the possibility of getting arrested, I waited until they left and packed up my shit and walked down the street to my car. By this time, it was early dawn and getting light out. I took a nap for a couple of hours, and drove by the house at around 8 a.m. to see a maintenance van in the driveway along with a person I assumed to be the real estate agent. I avoided the place for a week, couch surfing with friends, and when I came back, the real estate padlock on the front door was gone, and both the front and back door locks had been changed. My face when the house warned me that I was about to get kicked out.
I once lived alone in a historic, Victorian-style neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio. I don't scare easily, and I don't say that to sound tough. I really just don't scare easily. I take showers in the dark because it's more relaxing, for example. My wife thinks that is fucking weird. Anyway, I lived in a duplex, a one-time large house converted into 4 separate apartments. I lived in one of the upper apartments. Jumping ahead to what actually happened, now. There was an old lady that lived very close, in a house that shared the same parking as I. She was a really nice lady. Often, would help her bring her groceries in. Give her rides to her daughter's house. I would even help her fix things around her house. Every time that this lady would ask for my help, she would call me on my cell phone. I gave her my number when I first met her and told her, if you need any help ever, just call me and I'll be right over. She would call almost daily, and it never bugged me one bit. She was a sweet lady and I was more than happy to help. Jumping ahead here. It had been 3 days that I hadn't heard from or seen her. I got very concerned because I would see her every day sitting on her porch drinking coffee. I shrugged it off at first and thought to myself, when I come home from work, I'm going to call the police if she doesn't answer her door. So, I came home from work. I step into my apartment and drop my things on the counter. Put my jacket away. Pop open a beer. That's when I hear somewhat of a ruckus outside. I step outside just as I see a police cruiser and another blackish vehicle parked in front of this lady's house. I pause for a moment, then I see them carrying her body, wrapped in a white sheet from the upper floor of her house. My chest tightened and I started to sob uncontrollably. And this is where the creepiness begins. That evening, I am sitting on my terrace, outside, that faces this lady's house. Having a beer. Just relaxing really. I didn't really before this, but I glanced over toward her house. Specifically, at the door where her body was carried out. This exact instant of locking eye contact on this door, I see the curtain in the window closest to the door move. I instantly get the coldest shivers up my spine. It doesn't stop there. In the next few moments, I am scared to death and relieved. I get call on my phone. It is the lady's number on my caller ID. I answer, "Hello," a pause, I hear somebody breathing. "Thank you," a female's voice says. It is her daughter. She is at the house helping clean up the mess left behind as a result of this woman's death. She was thanking me because she knew how much and how often I cared for her mom. Eventually, I was able to retrieve my balls from my throat and realized that a dead woman wasn't trolling me. But, for those 10 seconds or so, I was petrified.
Two stories of mine. Grandparents' house is located directly beside my parents' house. Sharing garden and stuff, be somewhere between 6 or 7 years old. Grandparents are on vacation. Parents send me over to their house to get some stuff from the storeroom plus feeding my grandparents chicken. It's a warm summer evening and to get to the storeroom you have to go through 3 rooms. The storeroom is the only room in the house with no windows. I enter it and leave all the doors open. As I am searching for stuff I feel the temperature drop and get a very uneasy feeling. Then at the speed that one needs to walk through the house from the back door to my position all doors are slammed. Back door bam. 1 second later the door from the laundry room to the kitchen bam. 2 seconds later, door from kitchen, storage bam while I'm in the storage. I shat myself and freaked out, ripping the doors open and running furiously back to my parents' house, telling them that they need to get their shit by themselves and to feed the chicken. Refused to go there till grandparents returned. 20 years later, my grandfather died. Grandma passed away a few years earlier. When Grandpa died the discussion, who gets the house, started. End of the discussion was that I got it. 1 year later, sitting in the very room I'm sitting now at night. A little bit of backstory is needed here. My grandfather suffered from depression and a mild schizophrenic episode. He sometimes started to rant about pointless things very loud and it was not easy to calm him when it started. So I'm sitting in the room watching some movie. Hear footsteps above me. The room above was my grandparents' bedroom and left most of the rooms untouched. Footsteps sound like someone is walking up and down in the room. Get shivers. Then I heard an angry voice ranting in the room above me, and I seriously told myself that my mind was playing tricks on me. Was sure it was the voice of my grandfather when he had one of his episodes. Tactically shat myself and went as fast as I could over to my parents' house in the middle of the night to sleep in their guest room. A few minor stories. When I was in my teenage I had sometimes dreams in which a beautiful woman in black clothing appeared. The first time I dreamed of her I saw her in front of the house. There was nothing creepy but I woke up because I had pissed myself. Later one of my aunts told me at a family party after a few drinks that she always had nightmares starring a woman in black in the house. When we were kids one of my cousins always insisted that there is a door behind one wardrobe in the house. We always made fun of her because it was obvious when we looked from the next room that there is a solid wall. I started renovating the house top to bottom a few years back. Turns out, behind the wardrobe was space for a door in the timber frame but it was sealed more than 100 years ago. Last creepy part of my house. My mother told me that when she was a kid and had to go to the toilet at night she sometimes saw a little gnomish creature in a corner telling her to go back to bed. She shrugged it off as half-sleep dream stuff. I once made a bad joke when she was over. "Mom, watch out for your gnome." Mom gets a real terrified look on her face and refuses to enter the upper level for at least a week.
Okay, I'll tell one. 9 years old, riding in car with mother, sister, and brother. It is late at night and we are driving home from something. Pitch black out, except for the streetlights. Driving along, there is a purse up ahead in the road. Purse is perfectly in the middle of the road, like on the dotted line. I am sitting behind my mother in the back seat. Mother is a good person.
Anon, I'll stop and you pick that up. We'll see if there is any identification inside and turn it over to the police.
Reluctantly sigh, okay, as little kids do. She stops the car alongside the purse, and I open my door. The purse is immediately outside my door, so close I can almost grab it without getting out of the car. Something feels really wrong about the situation, but I can't tell what. Inspecting the purse more closely from where I was sitting, I see what appears to be a super thin clear line of some kind tied to the strap at the top of the purse. Try to voice my concern. Mom?
What anon, just get the purse.
Everything felt wrong, and I could feel a burning in my stomach and face. Slowly reach the arm out of the car towards the purse, trying to get it without getting out of car. Getting closer can almost reach it. Right as I reach for it and almost grab the handle, the purse falls over backwards away from me. It is now just far enough out that I would have to get out of the car. Sorry for bad storytelling, but this is the moment I noticed the wire on the purse. I looked towards where the wire led into the bushes, and there was a small red light in the bushes.
What's wrong, anon? Just get out and get it.
Scared shitless. I think someone is trying to catch a person or something. There is a string on the purse and it pulled away when I reached for it, and there is a tiny red light in the bushes. Say all of this in super scared little kid speak. It comes out high pitched and super fast. Sister is next to me and understands, her eyes wide with terror. Older brother riding shotgun is slowly playing over what I said in his head and piecing it together. Mother still confused and blissful.
What did he say?
See older brother's face as he realizes what I've said.
Anon, close the fucking door.
Quickly oblige. Mother turns to him.
Still don't understand. What?
He cuts her off and points at the road in front of us. Drive. She has no idea what is happening but realizes we are in real danger and immediately complies. I have no idea what the fuck was in those bushes.
Okay, so I was 18 and lost in LA and a little homeless, sometimes supported by friends/family. It was a bad time. I saw some strange/horrible things, but one particular story stands out. Dry nights in summer. Wandering near a drained reservoir. I am looking for unoccupied runoff holes, the odd tunnel. My stomach hurts, but I'm too tired to look for food. Can only keep walking and looking for some form of shelter, just want to crash. Pass a couple orange tents in a tunnel entrance. Shitloads of half-empty packets of rice and mounds of soda cans. Check the tent with a lil torch I kept on a rucksack zip. The tents are empty. Jackpot.jpg. Engorge myself on leftover rice. Suddenly hear noise like steam bubbling up from somewhere on the other side of the tents. Look over and see huge fucking dog's head crane over the tent and open its mouth. This thing was massive. Starts barking loud and moving towards me. In a moment of panic, I pull up onto the top of the tunnel mouth. The slope of the reservoir bank is too steep for the big dog. It can't reach me, but spends the most harrowing 6 minutes of my life barking at me insanely. Being so close, I could see it was only a little smaller than the tunnel mouth. For reference, I didn't have to duck to enter the tunnel. Eventually, it goes away, and I scrabble madly up the bank and run far away. Didn't end up sleeping after all. So a couple days passed, and during that time I met with a friend of mine who squatted in the area. I told him the story of the huge dog and the abandoned tents, and we decided to check it out in the daytime. Very hot day, cloudless sky. Like have to pack drink bottles to walk 3 blocks hot. I'm trying to figure out where exactly it was. Completely on edge, but curious. Eventually, notice a glint of orange at the base of the slope. It's the tents. We investigate, All the while I'm shit scared that the dog will emerge from the tunnel. My friend doesn't give two shits, only half believes me about it.
Fucking hell, Anon, what's that smell?
I approach closer, thinking he's just referring to rice and dog shits. As soon as I push through the tents and follow him into the tunnel, I am hit with an overpowering waft of awful smells. The smell of shit and rotting meat intermingling with so many other different stenches. The sheer variety of so many different, distinctly awful smells was the worst part. For whatever reason, we keep pushing on. My friend points out the sparsity of graffiti in the tunnel, and how it is limited mostly to the very start of the entrance. For whatever reason this severely creeps me out, and I suggest we head back. Before I can push the matter, my friend grabs my arm and starts gagging. He stumbles past me and vomits against the wall. I squinted into the darkness where he was looking. Can't see shit. Move a little closer. My bare foot squelches through something cold and wet. Nope. Shine a torch on the floor. At my feet is a mess of bones and brown meat, literally alive with maggots. Webs of mucus or fat or something string between the stew of rotting body parts. Then I saw it. Poking out from under the mess, half a human face, white and wide-eyed, staring up directly at me. Can't tell if it's dead or alive. Nope, the fuck out of there and never return. There is a sort of epilogue to this story in the form of something I heard from a drifter about a year later. We were camping out in the California Pine Bluffs, and he had lived for about 6 months with tunnel people. If you don't believe me, look it up. There are actually fairly large communities of homeless people living underground of big urban areas, not just LA. He said when he was down there, every so often a person or whole family would just fall off the map, completely vanish. Now this isn't in and of itself that unusual. Resources are scarce down there, people will kill and steal if they have to. But when they checked up on their camps, nothing was stolen, but there were obvious signs of a struggle, including blood, threshed mattresses and tents and so on. All this indicated that there was someone down there attacking and killing people, but taking nothing for no reason. He suggested a serial killer went down there for kicks, but I couldn't shake the memory of the dog and the crushed face staring up at me. And that's my story.
This is probably the scariest thing that's happened to me due to poor decision making. Be high school me, be a sophomore, be an American, be moving to a new school in Germany, living in a small village in Germany. About 100 people, about 7 are American. 2 are children my age, 1 is an emo nonconformist. Other is socially inept kid who knows a lot about demonology. We'll call him Demon Boy. Demon Boy is a freshman who's about 6 feet 1 and is pretty lanky. Has a very specific speech impediment. Start getting to know the Demon Boy. Talks a lot about astral projecting and trying to leave this plane of existence. Says really edgy things really awkwardly so they never have quite the impact that he wants them to. After about a week of knowing him, he always starts a conversation with,
Anon, do you think we have common interests? Do you think we are good friends?
always asking me for advice even though I'm only slightly less autistic than him. School starts. Start meeting people. Never really hang out with the Demon Boy at school. He comes over to my house just about every day after school. Hang out with him every time he comes over for a couple weeks. One day I don't feel like hanging out. He comes over at the usual time after school. I tell him that I don't feel like hanging out. He lingers in my doorway and tries to guilt me to come out. Says things like,
Why you know real friends support the other whenever they need it.
He's there for a good 5 minutes before I finally just decide to come outside. As soon as I came out, he started acting as if he didn't guilt me to hang out with him. Asks me to throw away questions like, how was school? And gets throwaway answers. After 10 minutes of me being outside, he says, welp, I gotta go. This just wasted my time. This goes on for about 3 months. One day get invited to party by bro friends. Come home at around 9. Mom tells me that she was worried. Ask her why. She says an angry boy came over and interrogated her. She says he kept on saying, "Are you sure Anon isn't in his room?" Kept on asking her if he could check to see. She kept on refusing to let him. Eventually my confused mother did let him check. Demon boy leaves my house without saying a word. This is about when I started thinking Demon boy was a bit more than socially inept. Next day, Demon boy comes over. I answered the door. He says that he wants to go on a walk with me. I agree. I confronted him about him not trusting my mom. Tries to be edgy and says,
I don't know who I can trust anymore, Anon.
We walk into these German woods for about half an hour before I start getting paranoid. This is how it happens in the movies. What if he wants to kill me? Tell him I need to go home. Stares at me blankly for a good 10 seconds. Says,
Okay, I'll stay here though.
Get the fuck out of there. Cad. Start seeing less and less of Demon Boy until he stops coming over at all. Bro friends from school start coming over more and more. Stop worrying about Demon Boy. One night bro friends spend the night on the 2nd floor of my house, which is on a hill above other parts of the village. Get high as fuck and play Smash. Have to blow smoke out the window. About 11 p.m. Friday night. Friend says there's a tall guy just standing in the village graveyard that's about 20 houses down from my house. Thinks the guy is staring at the house. Sure, he's just noided from the weed. 1 a.m. Tall guy is standing in our neighbor's yard staring at us. It's Demon Boy. Holy shit, what do we do? FL me and my 2 bro friends are in my house. Demon Boy is outside. Decide to quietly go outside and confront him. We go outside. Walk to where we can see Demon Boy. As soon as he sees us, he books it down the hill. We're still scared out of our minds, but I realize how fucking amazing it is being high and looking at the night sky and the forest. Tell bro friends to forget about Demon Boy and that we should just walk around my village for a while. Grab the bowl and the weed. Walking around the streets at night stoned out of our minds. We're walking around my village for about 30 minutes before we decide to look for a bench. We figure out that the only nearby bench isn't too far from the graveyard. We see the bench down the street. As we get closer, we can hear talking. Start getting noided, but self-aware enough to think it's just the drugs. We get to the bench. I start paying more attention to the talking. Make out English words. Make out speech impediments. Oh shit. SWF. Tell my bros to keep quiet. Sneak outside of graveyard walls. Demon Boy is standing in the graveyard muttering to himself. Standing erect, looking at no stone in particular, just muttering to himself. A few of the words I made out were, Crowe, my name. We can't stand there all night. Signal bros that we need to leave. Get back home. Pass out. Next day. Go to school. Demon Boy isn't there. Don't want to provoke him, so after school I don't try to go to his house. Don't even think about Demon Boy until Friday comes. Doorbell rings. Answer the door. It's Demon Boy. He looks really sad. Asks if I can hang out. I'm a bit in shock, so I agree. We walk over to the usual hanging spot, which is a German school playground. The whole walk over there, he doesn't say a word. We sit on one of those school picnic table things. I nervously ask him what's up. He throws a knife on the table. Heart sinking. Fuck.
I wanted to hurt you a while ago.
Heart sinking even deeper. No.
I figured out that I'm better than you though. I'm going to go do something and nothing you do can stop me.
I'm freaking out in my head. He walks off and leaves his knife. I throw it away because fuck leaving it on a playground table. Monday. Base police want to ask me a few questions at school. Tell me that Demon Boy has run away and want to know if I would know why he would do that. Tell them he was a strange kid. To this day, I have not heard from Demon Boy, but his mom was German, so he may still be out there. Also sorry it didn't end with him dead or attacking me or some shit, he just ran away.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.